Hello, my name is Emily Groseclose, and welcome to my Capstone presentation. For my Capstone project, I co-directed MediaLab's documentary, Turning the Page, The Story of Next Chapter, alongside my co-director and Capstone partner, Ben Lashensky. Every year, MediaLab students create a documentary on a social justice-driven topic. Usually, we have a year to make the doc. We prep in the fall, film in January or February, and storyboard and edit in the spring. This year was a little different. In the fall, we finished up last year's documentary and then took a break during holiday break and came back in January to prep for the new doc. We brainstormed subjects and ultimately decided on Next Chapter, a nonprofit organization based in Tacoma that helps single mothers experiencing homelessness become self-sufficient. I knew of Next Chapter because of an advertising and PR campaigns class where we helped Next Chapter with their communication strategy. That was the semester that we went fully remote after spring break, so we didn't get to work with them as closely as we would have liked. Because I knew about their story and their executive director, Monique, I suggested that the documentary focus on Next Chapter and Monique's story, and we ultimately chose Next Chapter as our subject. After choosing and reaching out to our subject, we moved on to scheduling and planning interviews. We met with Mo via Zoom for a pre-interview, set up an interview time, and met Monique at the Next Chapter house in mid-February. Monique suggested a few more interview subjects to us, so we contacted Carol and Catherine, whom you will see in the documentary. We interviewed Carol and Catherine on the same day, not long after our interview with Mo. After we concluded interviews, we moved on to filming B-roll. We got some footage of the house, the motel, and different landmarks around Tacoma that would signify the setting of the doc and of Next Chapter. We spent about 3 different days collecting B-roll in teams of 2 and got a couple off-the-cuff interviews with clients and volunteers of Next Chapter. While in the process of collecting B-roll, we started storyboarding. We had a general idea of what we wanted the doc to look like, but we needed to cement how we would tell the story of Monique and Next Chapter. We went over interview quotes and ultimately split the story up into 3 parts. The first would be Monique's personal story and the beginning of Next Chapter. The second would be what Next Chapter does, who they support, and a testimonial from Carol. And the third and final part would focus on the expansion of Next Chapter into the Morgan Motel and what Next Chapter hopes to accomplish in the future. After deciding on the layout of the story, we picked through quotes from our interviewees and physically cut out the quotes to tack onto a corkboard. This process took us a few weeks, and each meeting produced about 1/2 of each part of the documentary. As we got closer to finishing the storyboard, we began plugging quotes into a sequence in Adobe Premiere Pro, which was our editing software of choice. Because our other editor, Hallie, was working remotely, we utilized Adobe Teams so that Hallie and I could work on the same Premiere project file without exporting and sending files back and forth. After we got Adobe Teams figured out, which was quite the hassle, I was able to plug different quotes into the timeline so that the storyboard team could watch the quotes put together and make edits as we went along in the storyboarding process. Our goal time limit was 15 to 20 minutes, and our original cut of the film was around 30 minutes long. We managed to cut it down to 22 minutes without B-roll. After we had completed the storyboarding of the quotes, we moved on to storyboarding B-roll. We lined up relevant B-roll with what the subjects of the documentary were talking about and picked out certain quotes in the doc where we didn't want any talking, but rather just a nice montage of B-roll. In a normal school year, we would have a pre-screening in which professors and peers from the PLU community watch the film and give feedback. Because we were remote, we sent the rough cut of the documentary to those who would have attended the pre-screening and got their feedback on the story that we were telling. We incorporated a lot of the feedback and moved on to editing more vigorously. Once everything was edited the way that we wanted and B-roll was officially in place, we moved on to music. Normally, we would ask a PLU student to compose a soundtrack, but seeing as most students were extremely busy and the timeline was short, we struggled to find a composer. Ian Linhardson stepped in to compose 4 songs of the doc, all of which we used in the final product, and we found a few more songs from different online sources. After music was completed, our audio engineer, Raven, worked her audio magic and sent her work to Hallie. Hallie exported the doc, sent it to IT, and we premiered the documentary on May 13th. I learned so much in the process of making the documentary, but what truly prepared me for this project was what I learned in my last 4 years at PLU. Prior to college, I had no editing or video making experience. As a freshman, I was on track to major in theater, but around sophomore year, I decided to major in journalism instead. That year was the year that PLU changed the journalism emphasis within the communication major to film and media studies. Upon entering into this emphasis, I discovered my love for producing media, whether that be journalistic writing or video editing. In each of my film and media studies classes, I learned more and more about film, frame composition, video editing, lighting, interviewing, graphic design, and I even made a podcast in media production, which is not my strong suit, but I can say now that I have experience in audio editing. Along with classwork, I was also lucky enough to attend an 8-day documentary intensive at Duke University with my current Capstone partner, Ben, and a documentary team alum, Sarah Ward. At this intensive, we learned the basics of creating a documentary: ethics, how to interview effectively and create interview questions, how to set up lighting and setting, how to run a camera and audio equipment, and how to edit everything together to create a documentary. Toward the end of the intensive, we worked in teams of 2 to create a 5-minute documentary about a local organization that was assigned to us. I learned so much at this intensive, and I carry that knowledge with me in every endeavor that I pursue. I am extremely proud of this documentary, and I'm grateful to Next Chapter and everyone involved for helping us produce this project. You can watch the full documentary on Pacific Lutheran University's YouTube page. In the meantime, please enjoy the trailer.
It's sad, but there's a lot of people, a lot of families who have a similar story to myself. Drug addiction, criminal history, lack of income, credit history is in the toilet, they don't have bank accounts. And gosh, I've struggled with all of those. So I can connect with a lot of people. So based off of our story, our own struggle and how we overcame our struggle is how I'm able to help other people. Because I get it. Like, we've been through it one way there or the other. Like, I know what you're going through. You hear the same story over and over and over and over and over again.
And that's what I love about Next Chapter is that Monique has been homeless. She knows the struggles. She knows what it's like to work with social services and the challenges that are there. I got to know Mo. She was one of the most incredible families that I've ever met my whole entire life. They have 2 kids who have sickle cell disease, and they would have to leave in the middle of the night. We got to see their crisis and what they would have to go through in the middle of the night, taking the kids to the hospital. And we just witnessed everything that they did and how powerful they were. We're just on this path. We're like 2 moms just saying, hey, let's do this. We feel like we can make a difference, and let's do it.
We talked about, well, what if we started our own nonprofit? How would it be different? How can we change the world?